Hello and welcome to the TMC Newsroom. My name is Rich Tehrani. Thanks for watching us today. On our program, Brian Hierholzer, who's the president of Artisan Infrastructure. Hey Brian, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So tell me a little bit about your company. Your infrastructure as a service provider,
Right.
and how's that going?
It's been overwhelming. We're getting significant demand right now. We're positioned ourselves as the pure play, wholesale only infrastructure as a service provider. So it's kind of this safe haven, if you will, with the managed service provider community really having to navigate the future of their business with everything with the emergence of the cloud. They're able to finally have a safe haven to build their solutions and be able to have a partner and not really a competitor in the space.
And so the MSP space in the last 3 to 5 years has certainly gotten a lot more attention and seems to be one of the hot areas. What do you think is going to be the next couple of years? Is it going to continue this growth?
Yeah, I think I think there's two views to look at it. There's within the 5-year span, or what the next 2 to 3 years look like, as far as what their business models are today, and then there's this 5 years and beyond. I know in today's world, with the emergence of SaaS and several other things, it's a very rapid pace that things are changing. So I think that in the short term, a lot of these managed service providers are going to start taking control of their solutions because of the emergence of the competitors, with Microsoft, for example, going into the space and competing directly with their Office products or Google Apps. So I think that right now that they're starting to kind of wake up and realize, we may need to start taking control of these solutions, bringing these solutions in-house, maybe get out of the reseller business and start bringing these in-house, keeping that value proposition with the customer. But in the long term, I think that there's two choices that the managed service provider community needs to make. And I was having a conversation last night with an MSP, and I was asking him, I said, in the 5-year outlook, where do you see your business with regard to cloud and software as a service and all this? And he said, well, I said, Salesforce is out there and all these different applications that are being available just direct to the consumer. How do you keep yourself in the value proposition? And they said, well, in 5 years, in the short term things are fine, but in 5 years we think that we may turn into this consultative business that does integration for maybe Salesforce.com and some other application that's being served as software as a service. And I thought it was an interesting comment, in that there are multiple MSPs. These are successful MSPs that essentially see their business model completely dying and turning into this consultative driven business that really doesn't maintain a direct relationship with the customer for the solutions that those customers are buying. They're just an integrator in a consultative manner. And I asked him, I said, well, Microsoft has built a multi-billion-dollar company driven by the channel. You've got the Symantec's and many of the other ISVs that the channel has really built into huge successful companies. And now, all these folks have really kind of turned it upside down, and they've gone direct, and they said that essentially they don't need the channel anymore. Or they put a channel program together and give them 15 points or something like that. You can't really build a business on it.
Right.
So I said, I think that there's an interesting path that needs to be, there's two choices. There's the channel in the managed service provider world that says, okay, we're going to follow the path of the one we just talked about, where we become this consultative engine and let everybody else dictate the solutions that we're going to have to integrate. Or we draw a line in the sand and say, we're becoming a solution provider. We have infrastructure as a service available to us. We can build any sort of application, and how's that application deliver that as a software as a service, but through us and with our control, with our billing and our customer, right? So I think that the interesting thing that needs to be done is that the managed service providers and the channel as a whole needs to really draw a line in the sand and put almost like a list of demands, if you will, in order to preserve their current model or their value proposition long term. I think what the list of demands needs to look like is, what, Mr. ISV, if you don't support the channel and if you go direct, we are done selling. If you don't support our model and help us build our new business model, which is ownership of these solutions and the delivery of these solutions through our mechanisms and through our billing platforms and our relationship we're not going to sell your product anymore. So you need to start developing software that I can bring up in my environment and relabel and deliver to those customers. Yeah. So that's my perspective.
And that's going to be the challenge, is trying to figure out what these companies are going to want to do. Are they going to want to alienate a channel so they can go direct? I mean, obviously.
Well, you know, and I may speak frank, but it just seems like they don't care about the channel, to be honest. They've leveraged the channel, you know, to get where they're at.
Right.
And nowadays that their businesses are so big, they're just going to go direct, turn it up, you know, do it as a web-based application, host it themselves, and alienate the channel because they're so big and powerful at this point. Now, the smaller ones, I think, there's a unique opportunity for them to really take that choice, right?
Exactly.
Are we going to embrace the channel? Are we going to enable the channel and give them all the tool sets to deliver these solutions in order to compete with the behemoths that have gone direct for the most part?
And that's the challenge, is how do the big companies, if they do alienate the channel, keep the channel from pushing these smaller ones and making them the next big one, the next big company. So we'll see.
I think that that's going to be the case. I think those that really embrace the channel and allow the managed service provider to become a managed solution provider and deliver those solutions as a software as a service from their own infrastructure, I think that those are going to be extremely embraced. And I think there's going to be a massive groundswell to those sort of companies. And I think that those will become the new dominant ones, and hopefully they don't lose focus long term.
Right, agreed. Now, circling back to your company, if you can give me the top few pains that you take away for your customers, what would they be?
Well, one of the biggest things that we deal with right now as managed service provider trying to navigate a cloud strategy. You know, we see this go into the cloud. You know, how do myself as a managed service provider put ourselves in a position to go deliver these services through the cloud? Right. Number one, they've got to find a partner they can trust. You know, number two, they probably need to find a partner that really isn't going to compete with them for the same customers, similar to the conversation we're having just a second ago. And then trying to navigate the solution stack, if you will. You know, we're infrastructure as a service, but at the end of the day, that's a plain vanilla, you know, without a solution, infrastructure doesn't matter, right? Infrastructure is a means to an end.
Right.
It's the solution stack, which is the value proposition that, you know, is good for the customer. So that navigation of all those different solutions that they can bring together and bring to the customer is really where the challenge is. So what Artisan Infrastructure has done is we've started building an ecosystem of ISVs that allow it a very seamless and easy way to trial solutions, bring them up within our infrastructure. Let's say it's a voice over IP product. You know, all the IT world today is slowly but surely getting into the voice over IP business. Well, you know, a lot of managed service providers have been reselling a VoIP company, but they want to start taking control of that. So, you know, they may be able to spin up a voice over IP product like Mitel, who's completely virtualized their PBX. Now they could be a hosted Mitel solution provider, for example, in the cloud. So what we're doing is we're building this ecosystem of these solutions that can be easily turned up within the infrastructure, have already been predetermined to work, very good. All the architectures are predefined. So if you're looking to do a VDI or hosted desktop, you know, you can come into our ecosystem, kick the tires on those vendors, try those solutions, and then once you settle on the solution, you bring it to market. What's significant to note, though, is that we don't resell any of those solutions. So all of our customers they're really joint customers between Artisan Infrastructure and the ISV partner. Those managed service providers have a direct relationship with those other vendors, and they get their licensing agreements or their service provider licensing agreements through those other software solutions.
Interesting. So it's a nice area that you've carved out for yourself.
Well, we're seeing a significant uptick. We're absolutely inundated right now with the managed service providers are really coming out of the woodwork because they realize that they need to start bringing these solutions in-house. So it's an exciting time.
So what's the future for the company?
With Artisan Infrastructure? Well, continued scale. We have a little over 150 service providers today. We really went live, I would say 7 months ago. So we're dealing with tremendous growth. You know, we were at the HTG event last night, and we're just seeing significant demand, a lot of excitement. It's a really exciting time for us. So.
Great. Well, thanks for being on the program today. This is great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.